Hi, your eyes are not deceiving you. It has been a year since you've last seen me in the flesh. I know. It was not planned. I did not plan to be gone for this long. Life got busy last year, and life is about to get busy again. But I decided, why not try to be just a little bit consistent? Just a little bit. I can't make any promises, but we gonna see. Okay, we gonna see. Hello. Welcome back to the channel. For those of you not familiar, my name is Tyresha Monet, and today we'll be talking about the Hello Kitty murder of Hong Kong. No, the Hello Kitty murder case that happened in Hong Kong the year of 1999, a year before I was born. So I stumbled upon this case when I was researching initially Hello Kitty conspiracy theories, because when Sanrio was really big, like really popular back in the day, I know there was conspiracy theories going around of like how Hello Kitty was made and why she's made and why she became so popular. So that's what I was originally going to talk about. But then I stumbled upon this case while researching for that video, and I had to talk about this case because it's crazy, like crazy. So this case happened in 1999, and it revolves around a nightclub hostess by the name of Fan Man Yi. Fan Man Yi had a rough life. You know, she was abandoned at a young age from her parents, and she was sent to live in a girls' home. Specifically, I think the girls' home was named Ma Tao Wai's Home for Girls. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry for the pronunciation. By the time Man Yi was a teenager, she had come across drugs, and you know, drugs is expensive. Okay, you gotta have a way to pay for those drugs, and she's resulted to prostitution in order to pay for her habit, which is actually a pretty common oh, sorry, I hit my stand, which is a pretty common phenomenon when it comes to the individuals like in orphanages and foster homes. You know, they don't really have a lot of guidance or direction, so they turn to drugs as an outlet, you know, for the pain of being abandoned, or, you know, not having enough, your family not having enough money to support you, literally. And just, it's an unfortunate situation. And her story is really tragic. So let me finish, Ty, get into it. Jesus. So Man Yi met her husband in a nightclub in the year of 1996, and she eventually gave birth to a little baby boy after being together with him for 2 years. But that relationship definitely was not on the good side. There were a lot of cases of domestic violence, and it was a rocky relationship. It was not, you know, peaches and creams and happily ever after. So a year later, in 1997, Man Yi was working as a prostitute in a Kowloon brothel, which I believe, you know, Kowloon, I think that's either like a province or a city in Hong Kong, just for reference. And she met a man by the name of Chan Man Lok. And Chan Man Lok is a pimp and drug dealer who was a prominent customer of hers, you know, a regular. And Man Lok was also a member of the Triads, which is an organized crime syndicate in Hong Kong, which I think that's basically like the Chinese version of maybe the mob, you know, like organized crime. You know, you got your drug dealers, you got your roadies and all, you know, all that type of stuff, you know what I'm saying? One day while she was working at the club, Man Yi was high on ice, which is the street name for crystal methamphetamines, and she decided that she was going to steal $4,000 from this man's wallet, which, like, y'all, do not steal from like a crime boss. Don't do that. Don't do that. I mean, I'm sure she needed, you know, the money, of course, to like fund her habit, and, you know, she did have a kid at the time and a husband, and I'm sure, you know, working as a prostitute, she wasn't, you know, bringing in home the big bucks, but that she'll soon learn that that was a terrible mistake and decision that she made. Of course, Man Lok found out about the fact that Man Yi had stolen from him, and he definitely was not pleased about this. He demanded that Man Yi pay him back the $4,000 plus an extra, I think, $16,000 in interest towards, you know, her debt. So Man Yi prostituted herself in order to try and get this money back, and she did. She ended up giving him back the $4,000 and the $16,000 in interest that she had, you know, accrued. But Man Lok was not pleased with this still. He was still dissatisfied about this. I think in general he probably was never going to be okay with the fact that, you know, she stole from him. He was probably never going to, I don't want to say forgive her necessarily, but he probably was never going to let go of the fact that she stole from him. So he ended up kidnapping her, and he had the help of 2 other triad members by the name of Lung Xing Cho and Lung Wai Lun. And Menlok, being the ringleader of, you know, the triads and these 2 groupies with him, he decided that Man Yi prostituting herself was not enough to repay the debts that she owed, and they decided that they were going to torture her instead. So Man Yi was subjected to sadistic and just brutal torture by the 3 men. And the 3 men actually were not alone in their endeavors. They were joined by 13 or 14-year-old. Different articles have said that she's 13, different articles have said she's 14, so I'm just gonna say she's 13, but they only refer to her as Ah Fong, which I believe is a pseudonym to protect her identity because she is a minor. And Ah Fong was said to be the girlfriend of Man Lok, who is like in his 30s, like definitely way too old to be dealing with her. Way too old, so he's a pedophile. But more than likely, she wasn't really his girlfriend. She was more likely like a prostitute of his. Fong was an active participant in the torture as well. They did some really messed up things, and I'm gonna describe a couple of them to you, but you know, I just want to warn, like, if you are, you know, squeamish and, you know, stuff like that really bothers you, it triggers you, I would just, you know, skip to a later part of the video. I'll put a timestamp up there somewhere, but it's some really heinous stuff that they did to her. Well, one of the things that they did was they would melt plastic straws and then drip the hot plastic onto the bottom, like the soles of her feet, so that they would burn her. She would be all blistered. They would also pour, you know, chili oil into her wounds, you know, so that the pain would be amplified, and they would beat her with like metal rods and water pipes and just, you know, like sadist shit. Like, just, I can't even wrap my mind around it. I can't even speak because it's so crazy. They would also piss on her face or directly into her mouth and then punish her, or, you know, in other words, they would beat her up for spitting it out like a normal person would. Ah Fong once defecated in a shoebox for laughs and forced Man Yi to eat her shit at 13 years old. It's like, ew. They would also hang her by her feet with electrical wires and leave her there overnight. And while she drifted in and out of consciousness, the men and Ah Fong would watch TV and play video games while she was slowly dying up in the air. And this was only a couple of things that they did to torture her. I'm not gonna go too much deeper into it because it's a lot. Even the stuff that I just mentioned is a lot, and you know, they did some horrible things to Man Yi. So the torture lasted for approximately a month before Ah Fong discovered Man Yi to be dead after all of the torture that she went through, which it was only a matter of time. I mean, there's only so much you can do to a person, especially with the type of things that they were doing before, you know, they would, you know, end up passing away. Nobody can withstand that much brutality without any type of medical attention. So the men decided that in order to get rid of her body, they were going to have to dismember her, and they did so in the bathtub of the apartment that, you know, they were holding her captive in. And since they were doing this, you know, in an apartment, they have neighbors. They were worried about, you know, her body emitting, you know, a smell of rotting flesh. So they decided that they were going to boil the body parts and essentially cook her in order to keep it from smelling. And sometimes they would cook her body next to their own fucking food. Sometimes they would even use the same utensils, specifically a spoon that they used to stir Man Yi's head, you know, because that's, you know, one of the parts of her body that was cut off, you know, her head. They would use a spoon to stir her head in that pot and then use that same spoon to cook their noodles. Ladies and gentlemen, I have no words for how disgusting that is. I'm in awe at the monstrosities that is mankind. So most of her bodily remains that were cooked, they did throw away with the garbage, but they did keep some pieces of her, including some internal organs and her head. And to top it all off, they stuck Man Yi's skull into the head of a mermaid Hello Kitty doll, and sewed it shut. Hence the reason why this is called the Hello Kitty murder. So a little bit after Man Yi's death, Ah Fong started to experience nightmares from the torture that she experienced. Oh, not that she experienced, no, that she helped to inflict upon somebody else. That was absolutely wrong. Incorrect. Sorry about that. Her guilty conscience made her believe that Man Yi's spirit was haunting her, and in order to try and rid Man Yi's spirit, she went to the police and confessed to what her and the 3 other triad members did. So in May of 1999, Ah Fong went to the Hong Kong Police Department and confessed to the murder of Man Yi, and she revealed everything that she and the other 3 triad members had done. Initially, the officials found her story to be very disturbing and unbelievable, but they decided that they were going to check it out anyway, and they searched the apartment. They found the evidence that supported what Ah Fong was saying and immediately arrested Man Lok, Xing Chou, and Wai Lun. Because she was a minor, Ah Fong received complete immunity from being prosecuted in this case in exchange for testifying against all 3 of the triad members, which I don't know if I agree with. I know that she was 13 and she was a minor, but I mean, you know that torturing somebody is wrong, right? So I felt like there should have been some punishment from her. I mean, she shit it in a shoebox and fed it to the girl. I don't understand how you walk away clean and free from that. I mean, I guess it'll be, again, on shaking the stand, I guess it'll be, you know, on her conscience for the rest of her life, but like, nah, girl. She needed to spend, I don't know if Hong Kong has, you know, a juvenile detention system, but she needs something. Mandatory therapy, at least. I don't know, but some type of punishment needed to be happening for her, in my own personal opinion. So the men denied killing Fan Man Yi, but they did admit that they prevented her from receiving a proper burial, which is considered a federal offense in Hong Kong. The men's defense team tried to argue that Fan Man Yi probably suffered from a drug overdose, which led to her death. But Man Yi's husband testified that she did previously, you know, do drugs, but she had been clean ever since she learned of her pregnancy with her son. And throughout the trial, the men constantly tried to place, you know, the blame on, you know, everyone else while they were diminishing their own roles and parts in what happened to Man Yi. Medical authorities were unable to identify exactly how Man Yi died because of the condition of her body. You know, she was literally in pieces. And because of that, the jury did not indict them on murder because they were unable to really determine if the torture is what killed her, which obviously it is. But I guess, you know, if you can't prove it, then you can't, you know, indict them on it, which absolutely sucks because they totally killed that girl. Totally killed that girl in cold blood. Man Lok, Xing Chou, and Wai Lun were only convicted of manslaughter in December of 2000 and were sentenced to life life in prison. Life in prison with the possibility of parole in 20 years. 20 years. This happened in 2000. It is now 2020. They could possibly be up for parole, y'all. Possibly walking the streets of Hong Kong, being pimps and drug dealers and kidnappers and sadists and masochists and all that stuff. Like, is so disturbing. And I was researching this case. I was trying to find whether or not these men were up for parole. I was not able to find any updates on whether or not, you know, they had been to court, you know, for a parole hearing. I wasn't really able to find any information on Man Ye's son, you know, how he's doing all of this. I'm sure he's, you know, heard about the way his mother's death went down, and that has to be, you know, traumatizing in itself. And, you know, to know that the men who did this to her could possibly be free this year is an awful thought to think about, truly. That's all the information that I have on the Hello Kitty murder case. I truly hope these men do not get out. I truly hope they spend the rest of their lives in prison. I mean, that's the least they can do. I get that they couldn't indict them on a first-degree murder charge because that would have to entail that it was premeditated. And I honestly don't think that they decided that they were going to kill Man Ye on this day, at this time, this way. You know, that's more of like first-degree murder. I do think they probably could have got him on second-degree murder, though, because while it wasn't like premeditated, they did kill her. Like, they killed her. They, like, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, y'all. But that's it from me, y'all. Hope y'all enjoyed it. And I'm gonna try to be better at actually filming, because, you know, I miss talking about stuff. If I shake this freaking stand one more time, but yeah, I'm talking too much, so that's how you know it's time to go. I'll see you later. Bye.